very beginning, child, starting with Toya, who is fucking drop dead beautiful. It don't make no sense. Toya could be no makeup on, real hair, sitting in like a fucking muumuu with holes in it, and she is just stunning. From the very beginning, child, starting with Toya, who is fucking drop dead beautiful. It don't make no sense. Toya could be no makeup on, real hair, sitting in like a fucking muumuu with holes in it, and she is.
See what is available to me and what's not. Let me see what I want to continue, what I want to take with me on my journey, and what I don't. Are y'all really like sciencing it out? 20 Toya 4. I like that, Toya. Oh, let me put your name in it. Manifest.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? I hope you're well, because I am. Wanted to come back and give you a little bit more of what I was giving you guys the other day. I finally was able to download the video that I was trying to show you guys that I ended up just holding my phone up to show you. So yeah, we're going to play that in better quality this time. Even though I appreciate the people who did watch before, here is the link. Pinned at the top of the of the chat box. I was going to say the message box, but we'll call it the chat box. If you are here, please go ahead and hit that like button for me. Shout out to you for being here. Much appreciated. Whoop, whoop. Mad love on a Monday morning. So yeah, I came on here just to kind of flesh out a little bit more of what I was talking about in the previous live stream. These are my convictions. So in true Usher form, because the title came from Mr. Z, when he said, "These are my convictions," I thought about "These are my confessions." So I figured, let me do a confessions part 2, just like Usher, and call it convictions part 2. So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. Yeah, so I got a couple of things I want to share and talk about. If you are interested in joining me, the link is pinned to the top. You can certainly do that. Listen, I just wanna get along with you. And I'm going to be playing cringy things like that throughout the entire live stream because I always video myself while I'm driving, listening to music and stuff like that. So I figured, why not share that on a live stream? Why not peel back the curtain a little bit and show you guys how I do when I be driving? Now you'll see various hairstyles in these because I've been doing this since I've been driving. And usually it's all over on Snapchat. I don't put too much of that on my Instagram, but I do that on Snapchat a lot. Like that's kind of like my karaoke app. I use Snapchat as a karaoke app.
Participating, I usually whistle and then I swerve, kind of like this.
You know, like, and I be talking to myself. It's kind of like a karaoke app as well as a diary for me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm gonna be playing little various things like that. I'm gonna add more to my arsenal as well. It's just that those are the ones that I have up here currently. So yeah, I'm gonna, yep, yep, that's what I'm gonna be doing. Um, so firstly, let's go to the video that I was playing on my phone last week that I have been able to pull up correctly today. Shout out to me. I am watching like YouTube videos on Canva and how to use that because I really want to get better at giving you guys more of like a visual appeal when I'm doing my live streams. Like I know you come here to hear me talk, right? But in addition to that, it would be nice if I could add like, music and pictures and graphics and words and so on and so forth because I am a creative person. As much as you may not believe that or may not have seen that, I am a creative person. So I'm trying to get back into that bag, especially because I'm in a better headspace now to do so. Earlier this year, I was battling instability and a little bit of depression as well, just because things were not materializing in the way that I wanted them to. And now that I'm back in Jersey and getting back on my feet, I'm not quite back on my feet yet, but I'm getting there. I feel a lot more empowered to be creative because there's a connection between like how you feel and how you're able to um, put things out. Like I'm never one for like giving pity parties or things like that. So I didn't really go into depth with how I was feeling earlier this year. I told you guys, but I didn't get really into the thick of things because I come to YouTube for decompression. So the last thing I want to do is wallow in my depression online. So that's kind of why I kind of kept it somewhat close to the chest. And shout out to 18th Letter. He said he's going to join in a second. That's cool. All I ask is that if you do hit the join link, that you give me the opportunity to flesh out what I'm talking about before you chime in. I may not do, depending on who clicks the link. We're gonna see. Cause I feel like I like to do more one-on-ones than panels. And so if that's the case, I'm toying with the idea of doing one-on-one where I let folks come up and join, and then you have an expiration time of when I can let somebody else come up and join. Let me turn that off. So yeah, so let's get into this first video because I already showed it to you guys on my last live stream, but I wanted to show it to you bigger and with uh with StreamYard. So here we are. Let me make sure I have the volume on and Lego.
Psychologist, I can tell you one of the main things you need to understand about Black men in relationships is this. It is incredibly difficult for someone to model what they have never had. And most Black men grow up hearing the message that their worth is tied to what they can provide tangibly. That can be working into no end just to pay bills and keep a roof over their heads. That's it. I've also found this difference in the messaging that Black men versus Black women get. There are very many different messages, but a lot of times they're told to focus on taking care of their house, like handling bills and protection, while women are often encouraged to create a home, a space filled with warmth, love, and emotional connection. What many Black men have never had is this affirming relationship that values them for who they are beyond what they can provide tangibly. So we live in a society that adultifies and dehumanizes Black boys who grow into Black men facing a world that not only doesn't support their growth, but works extra hard to try to stunt the growth of Black men. And without positive examples of love and vulnerability and emotional safety, it's going to be hard for them to build the relationships they deserve with themselves and with others. So here are 2 ways to create affirming relationships with Black men. 1, if you want Black men to elevate their emotional capacity and be more than just the check and what they can slang. Smash it in, let me smash it, girl. You know what I'm saying? Then you need to regularly affirm Black men for qualities that have nothing to do with their ability to provide cash or the D. And you know what I'm talking about.
I stopped it right there because that one definitely hit home for me. I didn't get a chance to really go in depth with how I felt about the points that she was making last time because I felt like the presentation wasn't so great. But now that I have the time and I have the space to be able to pause it and talk more about it, I am going to do that. So yeah, like she just said, um, you know, work on complimenting the character and the kindness of black men before you start uh, complimenting them on their laying pipe abilities and their cash flow, which, to be honest with you, I've never had an issue with doing. I think if you were to go back into my three long-term relationships that I've had in my life and you asked all three of them, I don't think any one of them would say that I prioritized their ability to please me physically or contribute financially to my life over who they were to me and how I loved them. Um, I do see that as an issue amongst Black women in general because, like I've said before, I've been part of plenty of conversations with groups of women where that's where the conversation devolves into. And it's disappointing because the minute you start to ask them, hey, do you appreciate it when he objectifies you or your box? It's like, oh, no, 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 that's not what we're talking about. Or it's like, but we don't do it like that. Or it's like, well, it's the least they can do because XYZ, whatever the case may be. And I'm just here to say, like, it was really nice to see a PhD talking about this from the standpoint of, hey, we can do better than this. Um, from the standpoint of, hey, this is probably not the best way to go about creating intimacy or long lasting, strong bonds with one another as a community. Now, I'll be the first one to admit, I believe we are too far gone with reference to trying to get things quote unquote back to the way they used to be. And I don't think that there was ever necessarily uh, a great time in our history as a community where we were just pillars of strength for one another and shining examples of how to get along, right? Unfortunately, we've had the framework of other cultures and communities that a lot of us have submitted to ourselves and tried to go by that end up really falling flat because that's not who we are. My argument is that we need to go back to the drawing board and take applications from people who are willing to do the work, not um, try to use what we've had and try to make something good out of something that's spoiled. So in this regard, I brought up my one of my recent community tab posts and talked about how black men deserve their flowers too because listen, I'm a big proponent of doing what's in your own best interest, which is why this video really resonated with me. Shout out to Rayhanma, the Hanma Force. Good morning. Happy new day. Happy Monday. I hope everybody slept well.
Compliment their character, their kindness, their resilience, their humor, their values. I'm just saying, like we talking about, we want men to provide more. Like, what can you add to my relationship? And the only thing you affirm them for is when they pay for something or they put it down. What else are they supposed to prioritize? Exactly. Let Black men know that you appreciate their presence and value in your life, regardless of what they can offer.
And I'm going to stop that too to say to all the men in the chat right now and to all the men who may be listening later, I appreciate your presence here. You may not have a tangible presence in my life physically, but digitally you do. And I'm appreciative of that. I always want to make that known and clear, even if you and I may have had a contentious introduction or um, conversation. I'm still appreciative because here's the thing: as a heterosexual black woman who prefers the company and love of a black man, I am largely committed to making those relationships fruitful and positive. So even if you and I are not interested in one another romantically, it is very important for me to hold a place of love, respect, and reverence for you just for being here. I never want that to be lost on anybody. This is not me pining for your affection or your approval at all. It's just something that will be and is. It won't be moved. I won't change it. I won't stop it. Um, I think that by and large, if that kind of care and concern was shared amongst us, then black men would be in a much better position in general. Just knowing that when they go outside, they're going to come across women like me who not only are going to smile at them, but will offer some sort of kindness or positivity in that passing. I'm not going to berate or belittle you. I'm not going to look at you in disgust. I'm not going to showcase any fear of passing your path. I just want you to know that you are respected, revered, and loved, um, because it's really how I feel. I wish that more of us could do that and impart that when we see you guys. But you know, I can't change everybody's mind. I can't impose that on anybody. Shout out to Self Actualized Sui. Good to see you, sir. But yeah, this is my attempt, showcasing things like this that I see across the internet and want to share.
Solely in the material realm. This helps to break down the mindset that their worth is only tied to tangible contributions. If we want more, we have to affirm the more that they give. And next, you have to create a safe space for vulnerability in the first place. Encourage open conversations where they can express their feelings and their thoughts and their fears and emotions without judgment. Without judgment. Without judgment. And let's be real. You can't expect someone to open up if every time they share, you make it all about you. You snap about them, or worse, you store it up. You store these words up for future arguments. So if you're not ready to be a safe space, don't act surprised when individuals keep their feelings locked up.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Like, come on now, you guys. Let's be mature about this. Let's be grown adults. I have big age on my side. Some of y'all have big ages on your side too. Let's act like it, right? Like, why would a man feel comfortable with sharing his innermost thoughts with you if you're just coming from a judgmental place every time? I don't like to be judged. You got one good time to make me feel like that before I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and be out. I'm gonna go ahead and take my thoughts elsewhere because apparently they're not welcome here. And that's okay. That's okay. They don't have to be welcome. But what we're not going to do is pretend like I'm creating a safe space when all I'm doing is shooting you down when you come to me with honesty and vulnerability. The same vulnerability that I want to be held and felt safe in when I come to you with it. There's no gender role when it comes to that.
I know what you're going to say, Dr. Martin. How will I know if I'm not ready to be a safe space? Like, what does that look like?
So you see here, what it looks like is you use their words against them. You feel uncomfortable when they open up. You judge or criticize their feelings. You interrupt or dismiss their feelings. So, yeah, no, these are not the ways to create a safe space. These are not the ways that anybody, let alone a man, let alone a black man, are going to feel comfortable coming to you with their innermost thoughts. This is just not how it's going to work. Shout out to Jason. He says, words few men will ever hear in life. Good morning, Toya. Good morning. Shout out to D. Scott in the building. My favorite Librio. He's half Libra, half Scorpio. That's why I call him my favorite Librio. But yeah, we're heading out of Libra season soon, you guys, and into Scorpio season. So hold tight. But back to the video. She she doesn't verbalize these things, so that's why I'm reading them to you. But even in her caption, she says it's hard to model what you've never seen or experienced. And we need to improve and appreciate the wholeness of Black men. How do you appreciate the wholeness of Black men if you use their words against them? If you take what they've given you and rehash it to mean something that they never said, we're really good for that. That's just a woman's flaw in general. We hear the things we want to hear versus what was actually said. And that's what leads to using people's words against them. Because if you mangle up what I said into something else and throw it back at me, I'm looking at you like, why you, what, where, how did that become a weapon? Judging and criticizing their feelings. I mean, um, maybe that's how you grew up. Maybe that's what people did to you. Maybe that's how you associate with love. But I'm here to tell you, it's probably not a good thing. You should probably start by judging and criticizing your feelings less so that you can offer that to someone else. That way, you won't feel uncomfortable when you open up, and the people that open up to you will feel less uncomfortable. It's all connected. You can't disrupt and dismiss people's feelings, especially if you say you care about them. Come on now.
Practice active listening and validating emotions to help create a safe space for individuals, for Black men to feel valued for who they are, not just what they do. For all the women who want Black men in their lives to open up, understanding these barriers is key. Let's create a safe space for Black men to be seen and valued for their full selves beyond what they can provide so that they can heal and we as a community can heal. We can just build all of these deeper connections that we all deserve.
Yeah, we all deserve that, sure. That's a human need. It's basic, right? But it has a domino effect. So when you don't do these things, this is where discord occurs. All right? And this is why I say I feel like we've gone too far beyond the pale with reference to fixing it. This is also why I say you got to be comfortable stepping over dead bodies. I mean, as mean as that sounds, as harsh as that sounds, as gruesome as that sounds, I've said it because I mean it. I'm going to have to look at some of my female counterparts and be comfortable with stepping over their dead bodies, even though they may still technically be alive. They're a dead body because they're not willing to embody what is necessary to create the alignment that our community so badly needs. So if you're willing to continue to go on tirades online and belittle men and speak ill against people whom you don't know much about, aside from being online, I can't really get with that. And I'm happy to draw that line and I'm happy to step over that dead body because to me, you're a dead body. That's what you are to me. And so the more of us that are willing to step over those dead bodies and find each other, the better off we'll be as a community. The more we'll get those things that she was just saying we deserve.
As a psychologist, I can tell you one of the main things you need to understand about Black men in relationships is this. It is incredibly difficult for someone to model what they have never had. And most Black men grow up hearing the message that their worth is tied to what they can provide tangibly. That can be working and to no end just to pay bills and keep a roof over their heads. That's it. I've also found this difference in the messaging that Black men versus Black women get. There are many different messages, but a lot of times they're told to focus on taking care of their house, like handling bills and protection, while women are often encouraged to create a home, a space filled with warmth, love, and emotional connection. What many Black men have never had is this affirming relationship that values them for who they are beyond what they can provide tangibly. So we live in a society that adultifies and dehumanizes Black boys who grow into Black men facing a world that not only doesn't support their growth, but works extra hard to try to stunt the growth of Black men. And without positive examples of love and vulnerability and emotional safety, it's going to be hard for them to build the relationships they deserve with themselves and with others. So here are 2 ways to create affirming relationships with Black men. One, if you want Black men to elevate their emotional capacity and be more than just a check and what they can slang, smash it in, let me smack it, girl. You see what I'm saying? Then you need to regularly affirm Black men for qualities that have nothing to do with their ability to provide cash or the D. And you know what I'm talking about. Compliment their character, their kindness, their resilience, their humor, their values. I'm just saying, like we talking about, we want men to provide more. Like, what can you add to my relationship? And the only thing you affirm them for is when they pay for something or they put it down. What else are they supposed to prioritize? Let Black men know that you appreciate their presence and value in your life, regardless of what they can offer solely in the material realm. This helps to break down the mindset that their worth is only tied to tangible contributions. If we want more, we have to affirm the more that they give. And next, you have to create a safe space for vulnerability in the first place. Encourage open conversations where they can express their feelings and their thoughts and their fears and emotions without judgment. Without judgment. Without judgment.
I just feel like she was spitting. D. Scott said, not gruesome, it's pragmatism. Yeah, you can argue that it is pragmatism, but somebody is going to hear what I said and walk away with that was gruesome or that was extra. Um, people are going to, some people are committed to misunderstanding, and that's okay. That's really fine. Look, I have to be okay with the fact that that's what's going to happen sometimes. But you know, I got to let people do that. All I can do is attempt to clarify where there is some actual desire to understand, but the by and large of it is that um it's that's just not always going to be the case. Yeah, I'm telling you, D. Scott, some people are committed to that. They rather than actually seeing things for what they are or asking questions for clarity, they will just be committed to, and it's that spirit that a lot of Black women get charged with having, that angry spirit. Because you are so muddied in your thoughts and your hearing is so impaired because you're so used to listening to toxicity, you can't hear anything else without that filter. It places a filter on everything else that you take in. So shout out to Raquel Martin, PhD, for this video. I appreciate it. Her sharing that. I would like to move on because I just really wanted to revisit that. I really wanted to revisit that because last time I did this live stream, I didn't have the ability to um, pull up the video on Instagram for whatever reason. I don't know. I was having technical difficulties. I was probably just having a brain fart. But Jason says some people spend their lives advocating for the devil. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And I'm not really on a religious tip ever, but yeah. Mr. Z says it's going to be difficult for many Black women to see Black men as human beings worthy of love because Black women have only known Black men as property, as cogs for a white hegemonic system. And that's really the point that she was making, Z. If she says, if you only see me as somebody that can provide you D or money, then what value do I really have? Which is why I shared um, the post that I had up on my community tab, because it really is about the fact that you can't, you have to give Black men their flowers. You just really have to. Your value isn't tied to what you provide others. And, I get sad when I see that being displayed. I know I'm but one voice. But yeah, and this is why I said earlier in the stream, we're using frameworks that were never meant to be applied to us. We come from a place of and a culture that does not work in those ways. Also, we have a lot of ground to cover. And so, in that regard, if we have so much ground to cover as a community, as a collective, then we cannot use the white hegemonic system as a basis for which to provide parameters. We just can't. Like that just isn't going to work for us. It hasn't worked for us. Yet we still keep trying to compare ourselves to our white counterparts, our Latino counterparts, Asian counterparts. Like none of us are those things. And I don't care if you're mixed, if you come from a family, if you identify yourself as black, then you understand that that is a whole umbrella under which so many things exist. And I do understand it's going to be difficult for black women to see black men as human beings worthy of love, but it doesn't stop me from trying. It does not stop me from trying. It doesn't mean that I'm going to give up on that. Okay. Um, Let me go back to this video.
America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding him by saying, well, we are qualified, we want to work, we can help.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility?
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we're going to get, and it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us, whether we want to or not.
You don't want to live on the level of income that I can afford you and love me on the basis of that. You want to always be aspiring to have all those things that's a part of the great middle class white American society, and because I can't deliver these things to you, you say that you are not a man.
I don't measure a man by how much money he can bring home. I measure a man by how he treats me. Whether when I'm tired and I'm sick and I'm scared, he's there.
Okay. Problems. Effing problems. But I'm not going to give up. Mr. Z says women have intrinsic value by virtue of women being the ones who bring new life into the world. We as a species, particularly as black people, are going to have to see men as having intrinsic value. And that's the thing. It's not lost on me, that intrinsic value. I've gotten online plenty of times and given you guys multiple examples of that intrinsic value being displayed um, and shared with me. I just by by the very virtue of Mr. Z being here, Sick Diggy being here, Detroit 313, Jason, D. Scott, UFO Kamikaze, the 18th letter, Ray Hanma, Self Actualized Sweet. Like, just by those names being here, that is intrinsic value. Why? Because it tells me that you guys support me on some level. That is an intrinsic value that is extended online that doesn't have to be. I don't take that for granted. You guys can go somewhere else with your views, with your likes, with your commentary. You can do that elsewhere. You come here and you do that with me, and I'm supremely appreciative of that. Even more so than that, the intrinsic value that black men have is they will always be our home first and foremost. For me, I don't feel comfortable going to any other race of man with whatever it is that I'm up against, whatever it is that I'm celebrating, All of those things need to find their place back in the hands and the arms of a black man in my life. And I'm lucky to have that. I am very lucky to have. I was just talking to a black man, a friend of mine yesterday. He was just checking in with me, seeing how I was doing. Um, and you know, in our conversation, we went towards like, hey, what each of us have been going through lately, right? And so in us talking to each other and keeping each other abreast, um, you know, he's like, how are things? And I'm like, they're thinking, what about you? He goes, same. Things are just doing what they be doing and all of that. And it's like we have like a lighthearted viewpoint of how life is whooping our ass right now. But I even said we're really lucky to even be here for that. I feel lucky to even have the ability to have moved back to New Jersey after things in Texas didn't work out for me. So to me, the intrinsic value that black men have is they're always willing to pour into us. Okay, even the ones that have decided not to date us anymore, they don't want to mate with us, they don't want to marry us, they are still providing intrinsic value by expressing their disdain. So I don't see how a woman cannot see that unless she is just committed to misunderstanding. And a lot of the turmoil that black women experience is due to that commitment to being misunderstood and to misunderstanding others. Mr. Shug to you says, what's beneficial to a relationship? Men pouring into women or vice versa? Huh. That's a great question. I would love to hear others' thoughts on that. That is a great question. Actually, I'm going to leave that up because I have an opinion on that. But at the risk of not, giving it away and maybe you guys not liking the fact that I'm not sharing right away, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that in the comments. Please answer that question if you dare. If you dare. What's more beneficial to a relationship? Men pouring into women or vice versa? Hmm. Now, if I knew how to post a poll, I would. I have no idea how to do that. I have no idea how to post a poll in the chat. And Sick Diggy, you don't have to wonder if they're here, they've heard of it. If they're here, they've definitely heard of Briffault's law. At the very least, heard of it. Some of us actually know what it is. Some of us have read it. But if they're here, they've most likely heard of it. I'm going to give you guys some time to answer this question because I'm really interested in seeing what you guys think about this. And see, here's the thing, there is heavy lifting associated with life in general that women were just never created to do. So I'm sure if you've listened to me before, you probably know how I'm going to answer this question. Jason says it's not an either or proposition. Reciprocation is useful here. I agree. It's not an either or. I agree with that. But I think that when you're talking about the benefit to a relationship, yes, both people have to pour into each other. Absolutely. But it bears noting that men pouring into women is more beneficial to the relationship as a whole because the onus is largely placed on men with reference to the success of a relationship. Okay? As a man, if you are pouring into me in places that I don't even see a deficit. As a woman, I am honored to not only respect that, but I'm honored to also double it. That's a power that women have, okay? The power to multiply. It is why we carry seeds. It is why we gestate and have children, because that is our innate power to multiply what you pour into us. Quite literally, we are the input to your output. What you output into us, we multiply, we make grow. So, for that reason, I think it is more beneficial to a relationship when men pour into women. And the most beneficial to a relationship is when that is a constant loop. You pour, I take in, I put out. You pour, I take in, I put out. You pour, I take in and put out. Okay? We've gotten so far away from that loop, that agreement, that equation, that it looks very different today. One might believe that that's not the way things go anymore. You know, Mr. Z says much of the disdain you see in black men concerning black women is really disappointment. Disappointment that black women chose the system and whiteness over black men and black families. At, and here's the thing, so many black women don't even see that they chose that. They don't even realize that that's what they chose. So many black women don't even realize that the choice of the system and whiteness over black men and black families is made every day that you walk past a black man and you scowl at him. Every day that you go to work and you kick that black man's back in that you work with. Every day that you don't speak up in rooms that he can't be a part of, that he needs an advocate in. Every day that you belittle your little brother or your cousin or your uncle or your father or your brother, like every day that you do that, you are choosing the system and whiteness over black men and black families. So many black women miss that connection. They don't, they, like I said earlier, they're so muddied in their thoughts and their viewpoints that they're not even realizing that whatever toxicity that they're spewing towards a black man, whether that be a black man they're related to or a black man that they know, it's another vote for whiteness. I am not lost on that. It's why I keep coming back here and listening to Mr. Z, listening to BGS, listening to Truism the Stormcrow, listening to Zero, listening to DJ Kuda. I listen to all of you guys with the understanding that these are voices that were largely shut out of my life for most of my life, and that I was missing this perspective and blindly ignorant to how I was being detrimental to the community. Once you know, you can't unknow. And Better You, shout out to you. He says, for me, it's both, but it starts with men pouring into women and then her pouring into you. Exactly. Exactly. That is precisely my point there, sir. I'm going to bring Kenshawn into the building, but first I'm going to play this again so we could chew the meat that was left on this bone from last show.
America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding them by saying, well, we are qualified, we want to work, we can help.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility?
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we gonna get, and it's...
See, that's my problem. You have to forcefully take. And no, you have to reprogram men, she said. No, no. Women are the unruly ones. Men, you can set it and forget it. Men are going to continue to be men as long as men are men. We women have done the shape shifting. Even in her even though she's having a back and forth with him, even in her tone of voice and the way that she combats what he says, she doesn't even give that a moment to marinate and for her to process it before she's coming back at him with something. I would implore many women to just sit back and listen. It costs you nothing to shut your mouth. The perspective you can gain by just simply listening instead of listening to respond is way more valuable than anything that you can add to the conversation many times. It's why when you see me on panels, I'm on mute most of it. Unless a question is being directed to me specifically, I wait my turn. That's largely because this space is a man's space and I come into it respecting that. But yeah, I have feelings. Things have happened to me. I have experiences that haven't been so great. But what am I doing to take responsibility for where I put myself in that equation? You've got to do that first before you offer any pushback or feedback. Kenshawn, welcome to Convictions Part 2. How are you today?
Hey, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm well. Thanks for asking.
That's good, that's good. Um, First of all, shout out to everybody in the comments and number one, for making this platform, a comfortable place for everyone and anyone to come and, be objective about, what's going on here. But um I was able to watch a little bit of the first video with the
Hmm.
lady speaking about how do you make an impact of a so-called black man who doesn't know about handling relationships or hasn't had it to begin with, um, and how the household, by the time he's 19, how he would go about his relationships,
Hmm.
stereotypes of black men, and then understanding that a household without two parents, girl or boy, is more than likely not to be well educated, and is more likely to be arrested already before high school is finished, is already in the police system. They're already harnessed and probably categorized as gang members or some type of association where it's negative. And so this is not, I wouldn't say this is pushing down on the black man. I would say what is happening at the home. Um,
Hmm.
and so what is happening at the home, I think, is we have men, let's be clear to um, white women and simps, men who women call lame or not able to carry conversations, not able to socialize themselves, build friendships, able to coexist and co-part in all things. These men can't do that. So they, this is why OnlyFans and this is left for these kind of men. Um,
Hmm.
and they have, they get the cyber bots and they live in the fantasy of,
Hmm.
having a woman say something back to them. These are the kind of men, the men that are telling us and shaming us into, vote for Kamala. Oh, Obama
Yeah.
is shaming us. These are the men and white women who fought for Cosmopolitan, who
Hmm.
fought for Sex in the City. They fought for this, and so the people who are hurting is the black mothers. So people have to understand it, And I watched um, the making of a world. I watched, um, Color Purple. I understand what the rap music, how it is taken over by the Jewish community, and nothing is owned by us in there. And so they're staring, cursing and vulgarness and speaking about black men and black women in a negative way. This is controlled and purposely displayed. Um, so
And if you can make us buy it, why wouldn't you?
right. So if you're talking about being a young man who has no kids, and that is more than 51% of black men, we're still going to be in that category, stereotype negative.
Hmm.
So I
Especially
think,
when it's lucrative.
mhm. So what is the advice? What do I do in an already uphill battle as a black man? I think you need exponential wealth. You definitely need to make money in your sleep. You need to, whatever your focus is veterinarian, caring for animals, fish, environment, whatever it is. Um, you need to make sure you trust the process and really don't worry about what's going on around in society. I think when you're purpose led, you feed what you need to feed in the area that your purpose is, and someone someone will recognize that, woman or man, and you would get to where you need to be because obviously you'd help the people in that area that you need to help. I
And
think
I
we
think
tend to
that what you're
go ahead.
talking about, excuse me for a second, I think what you're talking about stems from doing what's in your best interest to begin with. You can't get to that level of wealth and choice without doing what's in your best interest to begin with. And sometimes that means making the tough decision to separate yourself from that which is comfortable, that which is familiar, in order to find what is more comforting and feels like family. Mr. Shook to you says, do you remember being kids and mothers, grannies and aunts were happy and took joy in baking cookies, brownies? As of late, I don't believe women find joy in doing things for others. I mean, if women saw the benefit of men pouring into them, then you would have them joyful at doing these things. I am a woman who does, therefore, I love to cook. I cooked a huge meal yesterday for Sunday dinner for both my mother and grandmother. Now, I would have loved to have made this meal for a man. Unfortunately, there isn't one in my life at the time. However, if there were, you better believe I'd be doing it for him and finding joy in doing so. Why? Because of that pouring into that we spoke about earlier. Kenshawn, I think you are on point with what you're saying, and I do believe that, you know, getting to that place that you were speaking of is the goal for sure, but you have to start somewhere. And if the women that are in your life are not speaking towards that and putting positivity and pouring into you in a way that feels good, then they've got to go. Point blank.
I think that's what the lady was trying to point out. I'm sorry I forgot her name, but I got the message, and
Raquel
it
Martin, the
comes,
PhD.
hmm and so I see a lot of husbands, um, and a lot of wives. I'm speaking to husbands and wives because, if we
Go for
shack
it.
up together, if we, play this boyfriend and girlfriend and dating game, I think we don't get the understanding. So, a husband, is a guy who probably has a man cave where he watches his sports games or not. He can be a painter. I'm not saying he can't be eccentric. I'm just saying this is the normal guy, right? If he's a plumber, right? How does a woman put affirmation into him, right?
Right.
Men are very simple in that, if if you're playing a video game and you're egging us on to win that video game, we would probably break the control trying to do exactly that because we're also being backed by you,
Hmm.
you know, pumping us up. Affirmation just for your husband being a plumber, for example. You can give him affirmation in many ways. You can have him fix the zinc, and then you can tell your girlfriends, how business can pick up if you guys need help. With my husband coming over to fix your faucet or whatever the case may be. Affirmation comes in many different ways. It doesn't have to be her sitting in the front of you telling you, basically affirming that you're great in one area. It can be other ways where, and this is why, when as a man, if you're engaging with any woman, it should only be about business, because what you'll find is, women, and this is why Kevin Samuels used the example where men would rent a arm lady who's very beautiful, probably a 9 or a 10. And where would he take her? He would take her to balls, functions, business closure deals, to whereas people can see that this man who's doing business on a high level, he actually has a beautiful woman on his arm. And that promotes him exponentially in that meeting. And so it's these kind of things that a woman doesn't, like you said earlier, a woman doesn't need to say anything. All she does need to do is just be there, and people will see that this man, whatever product he's selling at this particular time, and so it's verbally to your husband. It's also just being there, looking beautiful, standing out, and it's also affirming to other people, that your husband is exponential in this area, particular area, and this builds him up. We hear that. We then run through the wall for you. And if you don't
Exactly.
do
And
this,
most women
and
want that from y'all. Most women want y'all to run through a wall for us, but we don't realize how we are basically swatting your efforts away by trying to beat you to the punch.
it's
Um,
basically you go girl instead of you go husband. That's what it's become.
right. I want
So
to move the conversation along, Kenshawn. And now that we have Better You up, I would like to bring him into it as well. But first, I'm going to share this. I saw this online this morning, and I was like, wow. I just want to read through it, and then I want to get you guys' thoughts about it. He says, my friend got engaged in May this year, and their traditional wedding was meant to be in November. She called me yesterday in tears to tell me that the engagement was off. She got a new job last month, and the salary is so huge that she will earn 3 times more than the guy. He was uncomfortable with it and asked her to reject it or the engagement would be called off. He said she won't respect him if she earns that much. All her efforts to convince him otherwise proved ineffective, and she agreed to call the engagement off. I can't believe this is happening in 2024. Better You, please welcome to Convictions Part 2, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Um, First of all, thank you for having me up. I
You're welcome.
I feel like there's a lot of details missing in that. Like that to me on his face, I can see that being somewhat of a concern.
Mhm.
Especially if there's like some type of view disparity. But
Mhm.
if you've locked in and intend on making this commitment to someone, I mean, for me, I feel like that would be more, hey, we need to sit down and we need to have some talks if that's the concern and thought pattern, not just, hey, you got a great job. I'm breaking up with you. Because for me, I mean, and I think most guys who kind of have the similar thought pattern, hey, baby, if you win it, we win.
Mhm. I agree with that. I think you're right. There's probably a lot missing there. There's probably more to the story than that. But even if that's just the gist of it, I take a lot of what I read online with a grain of salt, right? So let's just say that this isn't even the real scenario, but it was presented this way. I think that this is a great example of that system and whiteness that Mr. Z was talking about. Making the choice to adhere to that versus what is the best thing for you and your immediate community, which then becomes the larger aggregate. Okay?
Great,
Under,
great point.
understanding that money makes things a lot easier, I can confidently say that he has a point here. You're going to not have the same level of respect for me if you're earning that much more money than me and can make things move just by the sake of saying, well, you'll just pay somebody to do it. That is a
Mhm.
wedge
Can
that
I?
she is welcoming into the relationship. Go ahead, Kenshawn, please.
So I would use this example, right? Let's just say that's Toya and that's myself, and it's a way to do things, man. And this dude, he blew it really, and I don't think he was really committed because if that's Toya, I would just present it to her in this way, if do you want to be out of the field, right, running the business for the family, right? If your promotion is such and such, then it's just best you open your own business here and run it at home. I will continue to work, and what would I be taking you out of? I'd be taking you out of co-workers, higher authorities, directors, CEOs. I would be taking you out of the lion's den. You would be running your stuff at home, and you'd still be making exponential wealth. So I think he could have presented that instead of saying it's a ultimatum. I mean, why would he even? That's not commitment if you're making an ultimatum.
And I
I
think
think it's
that's
just he
what
could have.
Better You was getting at in terms of what we don't know. If they have already had a contentious relationship, let's just fill in the blanks. We don't know these people, but I can imagine that maybe he's making this ultimatum because he may have already witnessed some of her behavior to be problematic with reference to power dynamics. And
Mhm.
so he might already see, like, hey, this is just going to make things worse. So I'm not signed up for that. I'm telling you right now, if that's something that you're trying to do, I'm not trying to do it with you.
And
Fact.
even if you make more money than me while working at home, if you make more than the promotion you would have got, I wouldn't be shamed because
Right,
what you would be doing is running your own thing. You would be
right.
out of the market of workplace.
Hmm.
That's important for women today, and they would love to be out of the market of workplace. Men just don't see it like that. They just want to compete with the woman.
There's a clip. I can't remember whose show it was on. I think Z played it, but it was these women with money talking about dating men with less. And there was this one lady. She said like, "Oh, if I'll earn you, you the B, you my B now." And
Hmm.
I can't say for sure. I kind of get the vibe just based on this little bit of text. Maybe that's the type of
Okay.
energy she on. Because that,
I'm saying.
it does. I put it like this: in terms of the power dynamics and how a relationship flows, not everybody can handle it. And in a healthy relationship, your baby getting a big payday is y'all getting a big payday, and vice versa.
Right, right.
But when you got somebody who got an ego, who got that power struggle, who they measure everything in terms of dollars and cents, they got this uber capitalist worldview, then there's a price on compliance. There's a price on their agreeability. There's a price on their submission. And you know what? Somebody like that, hey, you know what? I'm broke. I'm broken, dusty. You got it.
Because who's to say that up until this point he wasn't busting his behind trying to make this wedding happen? Who's
Fact.
to say that he didn't do everything he possibly could to make this traditional wedding an embodiment of how he saw her and the investment that he was making in her, only for her to come
And
back
I
and
think the
say, "Go ahead."
I think the question is, Toya and
Hmm.
my brother, is it better? Is it good for women to take on a career? And not, I mean, you can, but if you don't have certain things accomplished until you're 24 or so, or 27, like having a family, then you can, your career path, I think you should continue, because at that point, you would be trying to meet a man where he's at. And that is where it could be several conflicts in there. Because I'm not saying she's going to have nothing at 24 or 27 and you're going to be the breadwinner. But once again, you're taking her out of the lion's den of the market of a job. You're taking, the work husband you're taking her out of all of that so she can run her own thing at home. So I think women, they're asking for that now. Not only are they saying men are not talking to them, men are not dating, they don't want to be in the work field. Are men capable of taking them out of the work field? This is what Mr. Samuels was saying. Are you capable of making your woman run the business so she can run things instead of being in the lion's den?
But you know what? You don't even get to that point until you've made a significant investment in that being the goal, right? So many of us go into relationships with one another without identifying and explaining to each other what the end goal is and being on the same page about that. When you were talking, Kenshawn, I thought about Tabitha Brown. She's a shining example of a, a a dynamic that exists where her husband was the breadwinner for so many years, and then that switched when she was able to become the breadwinner and retire him as an officer so that he can pursue his passions. But they have succeeded in their relationship, I think, because they were always on the same page about what the end goal was and worked with each other to get there. So now we get to see what that looks like as a success. They have two children, beautiful children, successful children. Her success has just been going up and up and up. What started as her being a chef, she's now an author. She's created products. She is a business unto herself. However, she has never lost focus of her family. That has always been the primary place from which she comes to us and talks about her success. So, I champion that where it doesn't look like she's walking around and saying, I'm the one with the bag, so you got to get on my program. No, she's very dutiful as a wife and a mother.
that that is something that I think gets lost in a lot of the women's empowerment narrative of today. That there is a fulfillment in serving others and serving family that a lot of women find that have been pursuing career and trying to climb the corporate ladder. And I
Hmm.
think what it ends up creating is kind of I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Pythagorean cup, but a lot of the
Yeah.
narrative nowadays, people just want a lot of women want people to pour in them, pour, and it's like, all right, well, I don't give a crap about you. I'm just gonna take everything I can. And what happens with the Pythagorean cup, for those who are unfamiliar, is it is meant to combat greed. It was a trick cup made by the guy who created the Pythagorean theorem. If you fill it past a certain limit, the cup empties itself. And I feel like that's a great analogy or symbol for what a lot of women are going through today. They're trying to acquire all of these different things, all of these different trappings. And what ends up happening is at the end of the day, you might get all these things, but you end up sitting at home empty.
And the government continues to trap them, my brother, because I just heard this lady, she's saying she has Section 8. She showed a video of her Porsche parked in the front of her driveway in her video camera. Her son is playing Meta Space, and she can't have a man in that home. So think of the suppression and the denial and the declines here, right? And so it's not working out well for people who choose to be on government, and you know, it just messed up out here, man. Now you can't even have a man in the home once you're being held by this government, and it causes the woman to be promiscuous, to get help from having a relationship, because the government will tell her, well, you got someone and now we're done. So it's just sad, man. It's just messed up.
I want to give a shout out to D. Scott for the Cash App. I'm very appreciative this morning. He said I'm his favorite Leo. So if you want to donate, the link is in the description. I appreciate it. I'm accepting all forms of gas money right now. Shout out to Naima for joining the panel. What say you, Sick Diggy?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. First and foremost.
Good morning.
Morning, brother.
Well, I was just looking at this tweet you put out just a minute ago by Star Beatty just a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had to look at the man's account. Apparently, he's Nigerian. And I was like, when he said traditional wedding, I was like, what, in November? So I looked at it and realized, oh, okay, that makes sense. And like understanding what you said, like, there were, like, better you said, there were some details that were left out. So I'm thinking some women, like women always focus on what's the immediate return on any investment. You know what I mean? While
Sure.
men have to think like have to think several steps ahead. In fact, the great minds have said that for any empire to succeed, you have to think 7 generations ahead, and that's what men do. And
Well, that's why I said I think it's more beneficial for men to pour into women because that's what you guys do anyway. On
not just
autopilot, you guys are
mhm,
pourers, right?
not
But
just pour into men, but also pour into women. I mean, not just pour into women, but also pour into children. And what I mean by that is there's this old saying they said, the Greeks have, it's true wisdom is old men planting trees whose shade they will never sit under.
yeah.
Because
And
it's
but
not
that's
just
what you guys do. I'm
hmm
clear on the fact that that's what men do by and large.
hmm
As a as a biological imperative, that's what you
hmm
guys are put here for. So the more that we as women try to come in and usurp that, all we're doing
hmm
is cutting off the supply. And I don't wish to do that.
Yeah.
true. And of course, as much as we want to pour into you, we sometimes look at you and say, is this the right individual to pour into nowadays?
Right.
People are becoming more hesitant. I mean,
Right.
especially nowadays when terms like sociopath, narcissist, borderline are just bandied around willy-nilly
Yep.
by both.
Yep.
And you also understand
Exactly.
that the dysfunction of some people. I mean, let's not forget that you have many people who come from broken homes, who come from like dysfunctional backgrounds and whatnot, histories of abuse and whatnot. So they don't know what a mature, f- functional relationship is.
Right. And that goes back to what Raquel Martin, the PhD, was talking about. How can you mirror something that you've never seen exemplified?
hmm
But this is why I make the case for stepping over dead bodies because we don't have time to go back and show you. You're either
Mm.
going to be a part of the program or you're not. And if you're not, then respectfully, I'm stepping over you to get to where I'm trying to go. I have another one I want to share with you guys.
hmm
It says, women hate when other women who they've deemed less worthy in their minds get chose over them. That's because women only believe in unity when they share the same pain. But when the gains aren't shared, the hatred comes out. And then someone replied, someone said women only come together to tear something down. And I think about that often on this app. You may have heard me say black women are only happy unless we have something to complain about.
True.
That's
Remember,
basically the sentiment here. Am I
I
wrong?
do.
I,
No,
I
I
bet.
remember. No, go ahead, better you.
You good, neighbor? You good? My brother, my bad, brother.
Okay. All right. Hang on. By the way, let me get some milk and cookies for the little one while I'm at it. Yeah, I know she needs to be
Aw.
satiated. That's for a little bit better use, because I love the
Yeah.
kid, but sometimes I gotta be like Uncle Bernie when she gets out of line. But anyway,
That kid
oh,
has
we
so
fought in
many
the
aunts
kitchen.
and
We fought in
uncles.
the kitchen a couple times. But anyway, like she says here, like women deem each other. What I mean, because you understand, every woman looks at another woman as competition. I
Mhm.
mean, men, we make a clear distinction between friends and foes. Women, they have this thing called frenemies.
Mhm.
The concept of the frenemy is kind of alien to men, but basically, it's like another form of it's like women's own way of saying keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Right.
So, a frenemy is basically you are a friend when it's convenient, but an enemy at all times. You hear what I'm trying to say? I'm asking. Do the fellas understand what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You're a friend when it's convenient, but an enemy at all times. I love you from.
Everything is a
Mhm.
matter of convenience.
Oh, indeed, indeed, indeed. Just like a certain individual's ethnicity is labeled as this when it's convenient, but we're not going to name names.
God damn,
So
Yeah, please. I do not want to make this a political stream. As much as
we're
I
not, we're
agree
not, we're
with
not, we're
you.
not, we're not, we're not, we're not.
Thank you. But I've been on the opposite end of this, and I will say,
Mhm,
to your point, Nema, yeah, women compete with other women in general,
mhm,
just on a daily basis. I stepped outside of that a long time ago. Um, I was on another stream where this was the topic as well. And
mhm,
I said in the chat, listen, women compete with me and I just be minding my business. And I'll tell you, I recently ended a decades long friendship with someone that was competing with me that I never thought we would see the day. I never thought I would see the day that this person would feel in competition with me on any level because for all intents and purposes, everything that she's um accomplished in her life, if you put it side by side with me, you might say
mhm,
that you might say that she's in a better off place than I ever have been, right?
Mhm.
And I am woman enough to admit that she has accomplished things that I never either wanted to accomplish or have had the access to accomplish, right? However,
mhm,
none of those things made me feel like I needed to compete with her because I've always felt like she is her own person and that our friendship was built on the connection that we had for things that we shared. So it's unfortunate that there are women who will always feel this
mhm,
need to compete despite obtaining some of the things that they've always said that they've wanted. This is where that hatred comes in because when the gains aren't shared, the hatred comes out. But typically, the gains that are not shared are the hatred comes from the person who doesn't share the gain. In this case, the hatred was coming from the person who had the gain. And I'm sitting here, scratching my head trying to figure out what I did wrong. And all I did was continue to be the same solid friend that I have been all these years.
Could it have been that, um, if I may ask my question first, if possible?
Yeah.
Thank you. Could it have been that she might have been felt unfulfilled in a certain aspect in her life, and
That
she
is
couldn't
something
understand,
that is
and
something that I totally can say that I've
mhm,
witnessed. Um,
mhm,
but even with that, I always gave her the space to figure that out. I was never judgmental about that
No.
because what I understand, even after going through what I've gone through this past year, we all evolve at different times. We all get the lesson when we're meant to have it. You and I can be friends, and I can witness you in turmoil and still have space for you to go through whatever it is and see you out on the other side, right? So, despite my feeling that maybe there's a lack of fulfillment in your life in some way, I can't feel that for you, but I can still be a friend to you while you try to fill it. So I'm just agreeing to what you're saying and admitting that, yeah, I think there was some of that at play. The difference between she and I is I was never finger wagging, I was never disrespectful, I was never trying to poke holes in her situation, so to speak, simply because I felt like all she was trying to do was fill up holes with things. I myself don't find material gain important. I think
Mm.
that I think that having familial bonds and connections with people that support me are more important than red bottoms, a house, a car, some shoes, some clothes, hair. I think all of those
She
things are
just had
things
to
that
mention the red bottoms. She
I
just
mean
had to mention the red bottoms.
because I think that that's a signifier for a lot of people that can understand, like, just because the shoe isn't a red bottom doesn't make it any less sturdy of a shoe. You know what I
That's true.
mean?
It's just I know. It's just you just made me laugh when I thought about that. That's all.
Yeah.
Just because there's been too many red bottom jokes we've had lately.
Yeah. But the thing about women coming together to tear something down, you will never find me in on that. You will never
You were
find me
raised
in on
better
that.
than that.
I
First of all, you
was,
were raised better.
but I've
I mean,
also
shout to
go ahead.
I said first of all, big ups to mom, but also dad, because they've influenced you a lot. Not to mention, you probably had some aunts and uncles who've had a positive impact on you. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But this space
Well,
has also had a positive impact on me as well to illuminate where I may have been engaging in those sorts of behaviors. To hold the mirror up to myself and say, well, that wasn't good. That was ugly, Latoya. Maybe you
and
should
gained
go
a
about
certain
this
level of
different.
self-awareness.
Exactly. I am not perfect by any means, but I'm better for every experience that I have gained. It's why when I come online and I get you guys coming to join me and talk to me, that I'm appreciative, but it's not lost on me that many women see that as me pining for you guys' affection. I get it, but that's not what I'm here for. And luckily, a lot of y'all know that. A lot of y'all see that like I'm not trying to. I'm not. I'm trying. I'm. I'm not trying to get locked down by any of y'all. I am happy to be here as a friend and as somebody who can impart a woman's voice where need be, but also just mostly learn from what it is that you guys are pouring. Even when you guys are on an all male panel and you're talking about things that specifically impact y'all, you are pouring into me because I get to see something that I wouldn't normally.
That's something that a lot of women uh, don't necessarily get or have. Um, that I would say that you have a sense of camaraderie and friendship with people who I would say that we're truly friends because we talk outside of the
Yes.
YouTube and everything like that.
Yes.
And to what I was just saying, and where you were breaking down all the material stuff with the Pythagorean cup, like there's a lot of people who think that because they get these material things, that people come along with it. It's like, no, you bought a lot of nice trinkets and you're still an asshole. There's no asshole be gone that I know of. So unless you hold yourself up and look at the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, like you're going to continue to struggle the same struggle. And with what you just said, that piece of text you had on there, I agree with that 100%.
Right?
I'm about to tell on myself so bad, but
It's a safe space.
when I was younger, this is back in my more toxic days, I would always, my dad, I remember he told me a long time ago, I was like, yeah, I'll go try to talk to this one, that one, blah, blah, blah. He's like, why are you trying to talk? He's like, she the prettiest one? I'm like, yeah, she is. I said, no, don't talk to the prettiest one first. I said, huh? They always got some friends, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's what you do. You go in there, you warm up a friend first. And then you work the group. He's like, I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, work the group. Yeah. What I ended up doing, especially in college, when I would deal with some women, like a lot of times they had 2 or 3 friends, and what I realized was she was kind of advertising for me, so to speak. So if we ever got on bad terms, I would start hanging out with her friend. And when you talk about like just walking by, like in the dorms or those common spaces, like you see those eyes cut and you see that fire, and it was like, yeah, I got you. You coming back? I'm gonna get a call tonight. I'm gonna get a call in a couple hours. Worked every time.
It's just that simple. We are not as complex as we would love to think that we are. Women, I'm here to tell you, you ain't low. It's obvious. And that's the thing. I'm definitely a person who wears her heart on her sleeve. I'm very straightforward and direct. You really don't have to do too much guessing when it comes to Toya. But
excuse me, Toya?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you please put up Terrell Bentley's quote?
I will. I will as soon as I'm ready to. I'd like to get
Okay.
through my point first, as
Oh,
well
my
as what I
sorry.
currently have on the screen. But thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's okay. I know you like to take the stick and drive a lot, but over here, this is an automatic and I'm driving. But I appreciate you being a passenger. So, I think to Mr. Shook, to you's point, not having siblings contributes to not being as competitive and combative with others. For sure, in my case, I can attest to that. I think in many ways, my not having siblings has proven less helpful in social interactions. But in that regard, it definitely is more helpful because I also, just inherently being who I am as a Leo, when does the sun compete? I know y'all don't like when I get all woo woo with my astrology, but a Leo is ruled by the sun. The ruling planet of Leo is the sun. The sun does not compete, it just rises and sets every day. It's very akin to who I am personality wise. I'm not in competition with anybody because I realized very early on that what it is that I have to offer is unique. But I also, in the same breath, can admit and acknowledge that you have something very unique to offer as well. It may not be something I want to partake in. However, it doesn't lessen the validity of that. Your intrinsic value as a person is based on who you are and your integrity. I cannot compete with that. I can either enhance or dismiss it. I'd much rather enhance it. Being the sunlight that I am, let me shine a light bulb on you because that's what I can do. Shout out to Maggie Thompson under the veil in the building. Good AM. Happy Monday. Happy new week. And now, do you want to quote Trell, Naima?
Terrell Bentley, you are something. You gotta love him for that. You gotta love him. He reminds me of what's his name, Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary had a song of a similar title, based on a comedy album he had called "No Cure for Cancer." That was in the late '90s. Ay.
Shout out to Trell. The Trell Bentley tax is in effect, and the Cash App is posted. Now, I'm going to, unless you guys have anything else to say on the previous, I'm going to move on to something that's totally not aligned with what we were talking about, but I do want to talk about it.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right, so I don't know if you guys have, and I don't mean just you two on the panel, but I mean everybody in the chat have been privy to what's going on with Jermaine Cole. But a sister made some really good points about his inability to engage in the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And I want to play that for y'all and then have some commentary on it. Let's have some fun before we end this live stream today, okay? All right. Here it goes.
I hate J. Cole the way that Kendrick hates Drake. Always have, always will. My biggest complaint about Jermaine since the beginning of his career is that he's a big ass poser. And that's all this new track is. Him trying to pose like he didn't take no L in this rap beef. But here's the thing, Jermaine. Ain't no incompletes in rap beefs. Ain't no draws. Only winners or losers. So when you pulled that track, you took an L. Period. Don't come back months later talking about firing my pen. They think I'm dodging smoke when you brought an actual water gun to one of the biggest rap battles we've seen since Drake versus Pusha T. You trying to make it seem like it was an internet moment to save face. You trying to make it seem like it was just about clicks and views to save face. Because what it was really about was competition. And you can't be king because you don't want to compete. You just want the crown to be handed to you on some inherited type shit, on some privilege type shit, because that's what you used to, privilege. Just like in the first half of that song, he rapping about how his mama got married and moved him out the hood. And then going back to the hood made him feel weird. We supposed to feel sorry for your ass? See, my thing with Jermaine is he ain't never actually saying shit. He's just good at rhyming. And that's how he gets over on y'all, is that he's really good at putting a rhyme scheme together. Putting very intricate words together and making them rhyme. But he's never actually saying shit worth listening to. How you keep wanting to consider yourself top dog and you don't even want to participate in a dog fight? You don't want to get dirty. You don't want to get no blood on your hands. LeBron don't show up talking about, I don't want to bust my friend's ass today. A friendly fade still includes a fade. You talking about, I wouldn't have lost the battle. I would have lost the bro. And you would have gained the crown. Because if that's what you want, you got to go for your bro. Oh, well, y'all ain't making friends. Y'all making hip-hop history. Fuck that. You could be friends later. Talking about my friends went to war and I walked away with all their blood on me. How? When you ran away before the war even got started.
I think she made points.
I completely disagree.
Okay. Let me hear it.
So, first of all, the whole privilege and everything, dude spent like 6 years sleeping on people's couches before he even made it. Like, he literally moved up to New York and was just handing out this demo disc. And he just so happened to get a demo in front of Hove one day. So dude knows struggle. Actually, the whole LeBron point, look, she's right. LeBron doesn't show up. He ducks smoke from everybody. That's why you're a fucking fake ass goat. But the whole thing with him is if you go back and you listen to, I want to say it's 2014, Forest Hills. He actually goes on at the end of I want to say it's Firing Squad. At the end, he says, yo, there's no more kings. So his whole thing with Kendrick and Drake and everything, he's been clear all along. He never wanted like a vitriolic beef with them. It was more so like, hey, you know, I want to kind of like, he was always playful. Like, you know, like we all good at the end of the day. I think I'm better than you type of deal. And when everything popped off and when he pulled his track back, he had talked with Kendrick. I don't know if you remember, like it was like one of the Dreamfest concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Right beforehand, he had talked with Kendrick. And Kendrick kind of gave him the lowdown, like, nah, son, this ain't what you think it is. Like, Like I hate this. Like, this about to go some places you ain't. This ain't no friendly. This ain't no friendly beef. This ain't no friendly fade. Like I hate that nigga. And he was trying to de-escalate, and that's why he even said, like, hey, you know what? I know how this looks. I know how this comes across. Like, yo, I'll take that L. He said, so I give him props for that. He took it on the chin. So she kind of proves what he said. I want to see blood for blood's sake.
Sentiment that it still includes a fade though. Like if you're going to shoot the fade, it will include a fade, and sometimes that will be on the other end of a friendship.
Nah, because this is the thing. During the summertime, I fought my cousins, I fought my friends, we fought just for fun. And there's that understanding that we're brothers at the end of the day. There was we never fought and engaged each other when it's like, that motherfucker really mad right now. That's completely different context.
Okay.
We got some serious shit on his heart. That's like, hey, bro, like, hey, we need to talk. Like that's a different circumstance. So like,
better you. One question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your official record in Slapbox? What's your Slapbox record?
I don't know. Like we did that shit for fun, man. Won some, lost some. Like everybody else.
I think in this case there is a level of competition that has to be employed though, because like she was saying, if you want the crown, this is how you have to go about getting it. Everybody can't just be friends when a war or a battle. That's when you have to put the friendship to the side. Like in her LeBron example, yeah, I'm gonna beat the brakes off of y'all, even though
LeBron is a horrible example.
week. Okay,
Jordan is a better example.
LeBron literally has not played certain players in years.
Okay. I wouldn't know. I am not about to sit here and pretend like I know anything about LeBron James other than Bronny James and Savannah. I don't know nothing else.
I put it like this. You can tell
just
who
thought it was an
LeBron
interesting
thinks.
clip.
Oh, my bad.
I have a question to ask after you're done, Toya.
No, you got the floor.
All right. First and foremost, this whole beef between Kendrick and Drake. Can we start off by saying it's all Jermaine's fault? Can we start off by saying it's all Jermaine's fault?
I think a lot of people were saying that in the beginning.
If you remember how it all started, it started with when J. Cole was on Drake's song FPS. And he mentioned...
Oh, it goes way back before that, man.
Yeah, but how this battle started. It started with him mentioning the three of them in first-person shooter, saying we the three kings. And then Kendrick on Future's track answered, hey, there's no three kings. There's just one man for the crown. What the hell are you talking about?
I don't know. I still think that.
Am I wrong?
I think even with no, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I don't think I'm equipped to say whether you're wrong or right in this. But just getting back to the clip, I think what she was saying as far as privilege is that he was moved out of a bad situation and into a better one, but he made the choice to find solace in the hood versus being out of it. You know, I think that is a privilege when you have the ability to go from living, I'm not saying he was living in squalor, but whatever situation he was living in prior to, and his mother was able to move them out of by way of marriage, you know. So I understand him sleeping on people's couches and on the come up to get to where he has gotten to. But even now, that's a place of privilege.
Because I think that's something that a lot of people, a lot of Black folks actually do kind of have at some point. Because being frank, like even if you come up in a relatively well-to-do situation, like chances are, like you may have family who's not in that type of situation, and you go and you spend time with them. Like I'm from a small town, and my small town was nothing like what some of my cousins was living in Savannah. And going to Savannah during some of those summers and visiting with them, it was like, oh, there's levels to this. So I feel like we all got some family that we spend time with, we love, and they may not be living the best, but they living a fulfilling life.
Right.
And I think
But you're
that's one
happy
of
to
those
go
things.
home at the end of that visit.
We do go home.
I'm looking up J. Cole's background right now. It says here, he was an army brat, first of all. He was born in
Hey, now
Germany.
I'm gonna stop you because we don't need to go that deep. But I just, like I said, I wanted to share a lighthearted clip at the end of the stream just to kind of bring a close to it.
Can I get this last point in though?
Yeah, please.
My apologies.
No worries.
So to directly what she was saying with comparing to LeBron, you can see and tell who LeBron thinks is at least as good of a player, if not better than he is, by who he chooses not to play.
Okay.
He ducks a lot of folks. That's all I'm saying.
Why aren't you on Snowman in the morning, better you?
Well, I think that's also coming from a place of privilege too, because I don't think LeBron could have made that decision earlier in his career, but he's gained the ability to because of his tenure. So I think I like the me between J. Cole and LeBron, just with reference to, okay, when you post up this amount of numbers, then it gives you the leeway to be able to sit out of a war. For better or for worse. I mean, I don't think anybody's questioning his pen. But yeah, let's see. Mr. Shug to you has the last comment of the stream. Black people are not a monolith. Some were raised in projects and ghettos, suburbs, rural, country, and affluent, I think he meant. That's why I love barber shops. You cross paths with every one of those dynamics. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. And again, I'm going to reiterate it. This is why I'm grateful for this space. There are things that I've come up with space that I never would have never been privy to if I the experiences that you've had. And that's why I love the dynamics here. It is not a barbershop, but it is very similar with reference to the point that Mr. Shook to you is making here. I would love to get your closing thoughts before I go ahead and close out this live stream. Go ahead, Namer. You got it first.
First of all, thank you for having me here. And I just want to say, I'm just glad to get a chance to chop it up with my big sister. Even though I can be a little annoying. I admit that. I can be a little annoying.
Have we established that I'm older than you? Are you a millennial?
Yeah. September 82. I'm 4 months younger 5 months younger than Charles. 5 months exactly.
Okay. I'm like 2 months older than you, but okay, cool.
What do you mean 2? Are you a July or August?
July,
are you a July 31st. Or August? Okay, you were July Leo. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on, you. Wow. Okay.
She's an 82 baby. I didn't know
what?
that. Okay. 81.
I don't like talking about my age.
No woman does.
Yeah. I'm an elder millennial. No, because people like to weaponize that. I'm just like, look, I'm a late bloomer. I don't care what anybody says. My timeline looks a lot different than most women's, especially because I haven't had children. But it is what it is.
Okay. I had that odometer roll back a little bit in my head.
Don't hold it against me, better you. Oh,
Nah,
18th
not at
letter
all.
join. What's up, 18th? Was just
Chick-
getting ready to close out the live stream, but you said nope, not yet.
Man, I've been running a little late. What's been going on, Toya? How y'all been tonight? I mean today. My time.
Bro.
Good. Good to see
You've
you.
been working.
You been working all night?
Nah, not tonight, man. But I'm trying to get used to this schedule of working on days, man. But it is so different when you so used to working at night.
I
It's
Oh,
like
indeed. That
everything.
it says
I'll go ahead, name what you saying.
no. I said indeed. I hear what you're saying, but continue.
No, it's just like everything is just so off. Like, and I don't know about everybody else, but I like working at nights. I like working at nights, especially when you like driving trucks and everything. It's nobody out there. It's nobody on the road. Way stations are closed. You can move through the night versus having to deal with traffic in the day. So I prefer that.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I used to work a job that I would start at noon and end at 3 a.m.
hmm
And that was almost preferable because it was like I would miss all the, the traffic and the daytime scuttlebutt, but also I would be asleep when most people were awake. So
I know, right? I prefer that. I want to be awake when it's the weekend and I got free time where I can go out and enjoy it. Other than that, I prefer everybody do they work. I'm sleep, and while I'm working, everybody else is asleep. So, but yeah, what was I saw a little bit in the beginning, Toya, of some of the videos that you showed and everything like that. And when it came to the one video of the lady saying that, um, what was she saying? Like that you have to encourage black men to compliment them on certain things other than, or was that you that was saying that?
well, I was echoing some of her sentiments, but yeah.
So I got a question I would like to ask you. In the next 10 years, where do you see this going? Because we've had numerous conversations. We've uncovered a lot within this sector of YouTube within the last 6-7 years, but it don't seem like things are getting better or denial is still strong when it comes to the way people think or the way people view things.
It's getting better with reference to people making the decision to go where they are celebrated versus tolerated. I think the more that we make those types of decisions, the better off we all are in general. I know that many of us are living really full lives by being beholden to that interest. I think it won't be felt in the aggregate until, like I said before, more of us are comfortable with stepping over dead bodies. Yeah, we can acknowledge the fact that we might be family or we may have been tied together or bonded by whatever experience that happened in the past. But by championing yourself in the future, making better decisions, you start to find your tribe and you start to, you know, center yourself around people who are going where you're going and can travel with you. And so that's the only way I see it improving. Um, kind of getting into these micro positions to be able to spread it to the macro, but it's going to take everybody taking up that charge in their personal lives to say, no more, I'm not accepting this, and I'm going to move forward in a way that serves me best as well as the people connected to me. So, the more we have these conversations, I think the more people can make that decision. But there's some of us who, like I said earlier in this stream, are committed to misunderstanding, and those people will die. Those people will be walking dead.
I definitely agree. One thing I've learned as time went on with these streams, I never knew how strong mental conditioning and brainwashing was, and I never knew how certain things that that you think in your subconscious could be, practically was placed there by other things that you may have not have paid attention to that had entered your subconscious at a young age. So that's one of the few things that I have learned as time has went on, especially with the way people think, how we've been able to break down the way
All right.
people.
I appreciate your input. I think you went out. I thought you were finished.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm done. You can go ahead.
No, I just was gonna say I would love to get both yours and Better You's final thoughts before I close out the stream. I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to cook on what you did not speak of earlier in the stream. So now that we've gotten that from you, please go right ahead and close us out.
Okay, I'm gonna let my boy Better You go first. You go ahead, Better You.
Gotcha. Once again, thank you for having me up, and congratulations too, by the way.
Thank you.
I 100% agree with your sentiment, and that's where I think it is getting better. There are a lot of people who recognize, in terms of this discourse, that they've been receiving some flawed information, if you will. And I think what you're seeing is some folks who are willing to listen, who are somewhat empathetic, they're going through that rationalization process, and they're becoming self-aware how their actions maybe haven't been the best towards their aims and towards the people around them, the men around them. So ultimately, I do think you have to kind of you gotta wait a little bit, because some folks with some ideas, they're gonna hold so strong to them that they're gonna have to die. I mean, it ain't no way around it. Like, somebody gotta die. And the thing is gonna be, though, it's an ideology that doesn't lend well to reproducing itself. So, it might not be our time. It might not be our generation. To the old parable that Naaman said before. This might be a tree whose shade we never know, but our grandchildren get the bask in. But that's my 2 cents.
And isn't that worth it? I think it's worth it. So thank you for sharing that, Naima. And Better You, thank you for sharing the Pythagorean cup with us.
Of course. Have a great one.
Yeah.
You
Better
too.
You make sure the little one doesn't play with the brownies. That's not for her. That's for the adults. No, you can only have the cookies, little one.
All right, 18.
Yeah. So my final thoughts is, of course, thank you for having me up, and I gotta agree with Better You. My only thing with people with that type of mentality, before they actually die off or pass away or something like that, they're so rooted in bitterness, they try to spread that mentality to the next generation. But like you said, we may be living in a society after receiving the information that we have online that, they may not be receptive to that type of information, but you do have people that try to, reinforce that type of mentality in the youth so they can make the same mistake. So they can, be in the same position that they are in. But yeah, that's pretty much, that's the gist of it. Some people are just gonna have to, pass off, and hopefully we receive enough information where we make the best decisions to be around those that are like-minded, that really care about Black people as a whole. They care about, trying to accomplish and succeed with other Black people, and leave the ones that, that don't in the wind. And hopefully the problem take care of itself down the line. So
All right. Thank you for everybody coming through today. I appreciate you, 18th. Better You and Kenshawn and Naima for hitting the link and joining me to discuss this. Maggie Thompson is wishing us all a great Monday, and I echo that sentiment greatly.
One time for the haters, money over bitches, 2 times for the fake.
Okay. And I'm going to close with the way I always close, which is to wish each and every one of you peace, ease, and whatever you please.